They're really doing it. They're coming for the one thing that we thought was sacred. They're coming to ban the memes.
YouTube CEO Susan Wojcicki has warned video creators that the European Union's copyright directive, a wide-ranging legal proposal currently under consideration by the European Parliament, would have terrible ramifications for independent creators. Wait, what the? That's us! Yeah. Independent creators! The controversy surrounds Article 13 of the proposed legislation, which would require that all online platforms, including YouTube, that's us again, Floatplane, that all online platforms automatically block content that may be copyrighted, and if a copyright violation were to occur, the platform itself would be liable rather than the user. Wojcicki writes that this would essentially force YouTube to only accept uploads from a small number of large companies, as it would be too risky to allow just anyone to upload anything, as long as YouTube has to be on the hook for any legal damages.
They have taken steps already to address copyright infringement. Content ID provides the best solution, and I can't believe I support Content ID because it's goddamn awful. I mean, I made a cover of Despacito and I got a copyright strike. So it's already pretty damn bad. Like, it was 20 seconds of a video that I lost all the revenue on. It was a 10-minute video that had nothing to do with Despacito, but that's how Content ID works. I can't imagine it being worse than that.
Songwriters who are trying to make a living and build a career in music.
What are you talking about? Like, can you explain what the problem is? What is the problem? Is James Blunt not earning money off his music? Like, what is the problem? Someone explain to me, what is the problem that so desperately needs to be fixed for creators?
See, an earlier version of Article 13 mentioned, quote, proportionate content recognition technologies, which sounds like what YouTube already has in place. Automatic detection of recognized content upon upload. And if that was actually what was written, well then things would be fine. I wouldn't be making this episode. But this didn't make it into the version that passed. The people behind Article 13, which is mostly the music industry, because quite frankly the music industry tries to kill anything that it finds threatening, wants to keep the language vague because then they can demand basically anything they want and say, well, the law requires you to cooperate in all good faith with us. What does good faith mean? It's unclear, it's poorly defined, and that's the problem. What they're demanding is that nothing that has the potential to be infringing be uploaded onto these websites. Catching it via Content ID once it's on the system isn't good enough. They want to stop it before it even gets uploaded.
Right now, YouTube has a Content ID system that allows copyright holders to claim ownership of content on the platform, and they get to decide what would happen to that video. It can be blocked in its entirety, or the copyright holder could allow the video to remain on the platform but claim a portion of any profits that content earns via monetization.
Your video, your content, your idea, they're gonna be taking all that money from you.
Article 13 changes this and puts responsibility for that content on the platform directly. There would be no opportunity for a notice to the user for a takedown. Instead, the platform would be held responsible from the moment that content is uploaded, and they would be penalised directly.
You can't handle the truth!
Now, because I have used that 2-second clip, if in the future Article 13 gets pushed through, my channel will be banned inside the EU for no other reason than just that 2-second clip, even though it falls under 7 seconds, which means it's de minimis and very arguably falls under fair use. Now, you may ask why? Wouldn't you get a copyright strike first, right? That's how the system works. You break copyright on YouTube, that individual video gets blocked, and then you get a warning. If that happens 3 times in the space of 3 months, your channel gets terminated. Well, under Article 13, the 3-stage copyright strike system won't exist anymore. Why? Because under Article 13, they are making one massive change. This change is so fundamental, means so much for the future of all social media that its importance cannot be overstated. The way YouTube has always been is if a user, let's call him Joe Blogs, uploads a copyrighted clip, the copyright
holder can decide what to do next, and Joe Bloggs, the uploader, will be punished. Joe is the one who is held accountable for his actions. Except now the EU is changing it so that if Joe uploads a video to YouTube that is copyrighted, the EU won't hold Joe accountable. Instead, they will go straight to YouTube and hold the platform accountable. Now, I appreciate simply saying it like that doesn't seem like so much of a change. It seems like quite a small one. However, once this law is implemented, it will lead down a logical chain of events that will end up causing a jaw-dropping amount of collateral damage to all content creators on YouTube, even the ones who use no copyrighted content whatsoever.
You're having a lot of laws coming down by people who don't really understand the internet and don't really understand, like, creative endeavors. Stuff like this is really scary, and it's important for viewers like you to be aware of it.
This is a complete misunderstanding of both fair use and transformative content.
Because fair use is subjective. In the USA, for example, fair use is determined by a number of variables. Is it for profit? Is it educational? Is it transformative? Is it reducing the income of the copyright owner? And even if a video meets every single one of those criteria, it is still not legally fair use because it can only be officially determined in a court of law, only after a lengthy, expensive, year-long trial, and only on an individual video basis. Each and every video is its own entirely separate court case for fair use, and YouTube would be juggling tens of thousands of such court cases all at the same time.
It's a bit of a mess, isn't it? That's all it really is. It's just a giant mess.
Even if you upload something as benign as a vlog in your room, that will be blocked in the EU anyway, because there is a chance it has copyrighted content in it, which means there is a chance YouTube might get sued. So what would that look like? What is the worst case scenario? Unfortunately, at this stage, the worst case scenario also looks like the most likely one. The worst case scenario is every single smaller content creator on YouTube will be banned from uploading if they live inside the EU, as well as all imported videos from outside the EU being blocked inside of Europe too. The EU will become this dead zone for content creation where only the already established larger name channels like Rooster Teeth and Casey Neistat and those who already have a massive following will be allowed to have their content shown.
Oh my gosh, that's so
Dude,
sad.
I don't even think copyright holders want that themselves. I know. They want to see how their content is used and then see whether, oh, I should be monetized for this should be left up, it gets
like they have
exposure,
a choice.
whatever it is, yeah.
There is also concern that the proposals will rely on algorithms that will be programmed to play safe and delete anything that creates a risk for the platform. Put simply, this means that social media platforms will be forced to regulate the content put on them to an extreme degree. Social media sites will be forced to develop bots that would catch and remove anything that could be considered fair use, such as remixes, memes, satire and parody. The free and legal exchange of information on the internet would come to an end in Europe, creating a highly regulated, tightly controlled space.
This is the thing that would effectively ban memes. There is no memes shall be illegal clause in Article 13, but bots are just not capable of distinguishing parody, satire, and memes, which memes often use copyrighted content and use it transformatively in order to become memes. The bot wouldn't be smart enough to separate actual copyright infringement from parody and satire, which is all stuff that memes fall under.
So in effect, all this will achieve is a de facto ban on memes and a draconian crackdown on the sharing of information.
They'll have to be able to remove stuff automatically before it's even posted, or else if it gets posted at all, then they could be liable and sued just because it exists, even if they take it down immediately upon request. So this means that a lot of big websites would have to implement automatic upload filters, which are not easy to implement and often don't work. We know this with Content ID, lots of false positives. And it also contradicts with the European Union's e-commerce directive, which bans generalized monitoring because they would have to monitor literally everything that anyone posts and try to identify it for copyrighted material. And like I mentioned, even though this upload filter will basically be the only option, that doesn't really even work that well.
Also, the concept of a great filter that analyses everything before it's allowed to go online is an extremely scary concept because right now it's getting used for copyright,
But then eventually they'll realise that they can use this great filter to censor terrorist content, which people will support. Then they'll realise they can use it to censor violent content, which again, people will support. But then they'll realise they can use it to censor hate speech, and so on. You see where this is going. Article 13 is a step towards creating a literal ministry of truth, but instead of it being this physical dark grey building looming on the horizon, it would instead be manifested as this unseen algorithm proving or disapproving of anything that gets posted online, basically having control of what information you get to access.
I always worry about whenever people want to start regulating the internet, overdoing it really gets dangerous with freedom of speech.
So until we stem the relentless tide of social media censorship that is undermining the democratization of information, we're all slaves to the algorithm.
The fundamental problem is this. There is no content filter in the world that would be able to tell the difference between someone uploading a blatantly infringing video with one that is a transformative piece of work. YouTube has over 400 hours worth of video uploaded to the platform every minute, which would be impossible to monitor manually. There is the potential for additional automated filters being added to the system, but when you consider the occasional overzealousness of the current Content ID system, it's hard to imagine an automated filter that would work in a stricter copyright environment.
Even if you had a super advanced algorithm, one that is twice as advanced as the one YouTube currently has, there is no way you could scan all 400 plus hours per minute and register every single copyrighted clip. This means that many copyrighted images, music tracks and movie clips will slip through the net, and for every single copyright infringement on the site, YouTube is vulnerable to a lawsuit. There are a great number of ways a creator can obscure a audio track or a video clip or an image so it never gets detected by the algorithm. Here is a very quick example. Okay, so let's say this image is copyrighted. Well, how about we delete the background for it, make it back to front, so we invert it, change the colours, draw some spectacles on him, and then make it really small and put it in the corner. There is no algorithm on Earth that could reliably pick such an image as this up. Whenever you use copyrighted music and there is another sound on top of that, for example, a commentary of someone talking, the algorithm almost never picks that up either. Also, there are a huge number of cases where the copyright system gets it wrong and blocks videos that have used nothing copyrighted. There is one example where a guy made a 10-hour white noise track, where there was nothing but a static white noise he made in a program, and it got 5 separate copyright claims, all of which claiming they were the ones who made the track. Now here is the thing, it is impossible for YouTube to accurately police that 400 plus hours uploaded per minute for copyright infringement. So what does YouTube do? The only thing they can do: stop people uploading videos and having videos shown inside of the EU entirely.
Who decides if a parody is okay? Is that an algorithm, a business team? I mean, not even the creator gets to decide. That's fascinating.
Fair use will basically not matter at all. Fair use was basically a defense, and even now, it's the case where if you use someone else's content in a video or music or whatever, then by default, they are allowed to submit like a copyright takedown. They are allowed to sue you if you use any amount. But the whole thing is, well, if it's reasonably fair use, they're not going to bother because it won't hold up in court. But fair use doesn't matter in this case. It's not like you're protected under fair use. They can remove any copyrighted material at all for any reason instantly, and it's up to you to prove it, and you would literally have to prove it in court to do it, which you're not going to do, obviously.
There's no way for platforms to know of the legal status of any content you upload with somebody else's content included, whether that's music, video, or any other things like photograph. And as a result, they'll have to assume that it's infringing, take it down, and then force you to basically go through a process that would actually take place through the state to figure out if you can bring it back up. So you can see very quickly how everybody's impacted.
It would cause people that would otherwise create something creative to be like, oh wait, but I might just put all this work into it and it might just disappear. So like, what's the point in even trying?
I mean, think about it. Who loses in this situation? Not the movie studios or the big media companies, they're all permitted to use their own rights. Not the music industry, they just own the songs. It's us, all of us. We all lose. It's the people on YouTube and Tumblr and TikTok and Twitter and whatever. We lose. In a conversation I personally had with YouTube CEO Susan Wojcicki about Article 13, she made it very clear. If this ends up going through with the current legal language, YouTube will have to treat Europe like a bubble. Videos uploaded outside of Europe won't be able to go in, and in Europe, the only people who will really be permitted to upload will end up being the big companies. If you need even more proof, she even wrote about it. Quote, if implemented as proposed, Article 13 threatens hundreds of thousands of jobs. European creators, businesses, artists, and everyone they employ. The proposal could force platforms like YouTube to allow only content from a small number of large companies. It would be too risky for platforms to host content from smaller original content creators because the platforms would now be directly liable for that content. End quote. The safe harbor shield that was protecting YouTube from copyright strikes may dissolve. And because their butts are on the line for all copyright strikes now, the only people YouTube can allow to upload are the people they are certain owns the IP rights, the big companies. And all other sites would have to follow suit, and it is expensive and difficult to make an appropriate content ID system. Even worse, it could empower media companies to make more erroneous copyright claims, such as the case where Sony Music Entertainment went after people posting classical music composed by Bach. What's more, we usually think about copyright protection as it applies to movies and music, but simple images are covered by copyright as well. Every painting, every drawing, every logo that's posted to the internet is copyrighted material. Every tattoo, that's not an exaggeration, tattoos are actually owned by the artist who made them. And of course, each and every meme.
And here's another example. When's the last time, I don't know, you were out and about, maybe you're at a restaurant, a bar or something, and you record a video of you and your friends doing something, and there was music on in the background. Well, guess what? That will now include copyrighted material that would probably be deleted upon upload. Or maybe you take a picture or something, or even a selfie, and there's a copyrighted image in the background, maybe on the wall or something like that. Guess what? That's technically, if you really dig into it, copyrighted material, and yeah, it would be incredibly stupid for a website to delete it based on that, but if these laws are allowing these websites to be sued for anything they upload, well, they might, again, just say, you know what, we're not even going to risk it. It sounds absolutely absurd, and it sounds like something so extreme that it'll never happen, but these laws are so broad that it basically opens up these record industry companies and all these other companies from suing for basically whenever they want. That's pretty much what they're going for. They want to be able to sue these companies whenever they want for any reason they want for the little tiniest infraction of copyright.
Heavily regulating the internet does more harm than good. I think that it compromises freedom of speech, and I also think it's going to lose a lot of money. The internet provides so many jobs for so many people that it is the last thing that we need.
This was literally just for big business, because yeah, this is going to put a strain on places like YouTube, Facebook and so on, but they have the ability to use algorithms, even though the algorithms are shit at the moment. Like, they've got the ability to use algorithms to scan for this stuff. Small companies don't. Small companies are now going to have an extremely hard time of fucking competing in Europe.
A second major problem that is bound up with the Copyright Directive is Article 11, colloquially known as the link tax. Boing Boing described the situation as, Article 11 is the EU's bizarre proposal for transferring money from Google and Facebook to newspapers. It creates a special copyright over links to news stories and bans services from linking to the news unless they pay for a license to link. Boing Boing are right to describe this as bizarre because it's absolutely insane. European media outlets want Google, Facebook and any other social media platforms on which a news article could be shared to force that social media platform to pay for the privilege of giving the news website free traffic.
And another reason it's stupid is because this was actually already tried in Germany under something called ancillary copyright, which basically did the same thing. Anytime Google News, for example, wanted to link to a news article, then they would have had to pay a license just to show search results. So what Google did was they basically just shut down Google News and said, no, we're not going to show articles at all then. And the traffic on those journal articles plummeted and the news sites plummeted, so they gave Google an exception because it was a disaster and the traffic was lower than it would have been before. And it also happened apparently in Spain, where there was no option for an exception, which means that Google said, you know what, fine, we're just gonna shut down Google News. And they did. They shut down Google News because they didn't want to have to deal with this stupid tax, and presumably these websites now get less traffic because they got greedy. But Article
With
11,
a right to use copyrighted material for the purposes of review only applies to publishers of press publications. Now this is fascinating, because from the looks of things, if The Guardian wants to make a video review and use copyrighted clips, that is totally fine and it is fair use. But if the average Joe wants to become a movie critic and uploads the exact same video just as an independent creator and not a journalist, that is not fair use, and he will be banned for it. Which means if any independent movie reviewer you know on YouTube uses copyrighted clips, they will be banned in Europe, unless they are part of a newspaper or other press company. Otherwise, it is fair use and it's totally fine. The sad truth is that even if I stopped monetizing this channel and made it blatantly fair use under EU law, that won't matter anyway, and this channel will still be banned in the EU because fair use is subjective.
In the US, might not be European, but the sites you use operate in countries that are part of the EU. And when different countries have different laws, companies usually cater to the least common denominator. Rather than having different policies for users in different countries, companies will just usually target the strictest set of rules and comply with those, then apply that set of rules to everybody. For a recent example of this, earlier this year, you probably got a flood of emails from Facebook, Google, Reddit, and pretty much every website under the sun notifying you, hey, we've updated our privacy policy, click that you accept it. Well, the fact that you got all these emails around the same time wasn't a coincidence. All of these companies were updating their privacy policy to comply with GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation passed in May by, you guessed it, the European Union. These sorts of privacy and copyright changes affect all users, not just those based in the EU. And trust me, once media companies realize that they can take us down in one part of the globe, I guarantee they'll be knocking down the door trying to make it happen in more corners of the earth. So, European or not, the EU copyright directive is something that should matter to you.
This is not a partisan issue, it is a power issue. Articles 11 and 13 are exactly what one should expect from the EU. A centralization of power at the top of an almost unaccountable hierarchy to benefit the elites at the expense of the people who are using the internet legally to exercise their rights to fair use and the free exchange of information. This must be stopped.
Young people, they're not involved in politics that much, but when you threaten their memes, they'll come for you.
This isn't a left or a right thing or a leave or remain thing. It doesn't matter where you sit on the political spectrum. Fucking Article 13 doesn't give a shit what your politics are. At the end of the day, it can affect all of us no matter what your opinions are. We're all affected by this. It doesn't matter what politics we have. This affects literally every single citizen of the European Union, regardless of what they think.
The open internet eliminated the barriers of traditional media gatekeepers and ignited a new global creative economy for creators and artists.
It has given anyone with an idea the ability to share their passion, find fans all over the world, and build a business.
Growing up behind the Iron Curtain in communist Czechoslovakia without the openness we now take for granted, I have a deep personal conviction to preserve this freedom.
We've dealt with this before. Like, copyright law is so undefined, and you can't just put a blanket law over something that will affect everything.
All of the people talking are these old traditional industries who are seeing the internet slowly chipping away at what they have instead of figuring out new solutions and playing the game and figuring out, okay, how do we stay relevant in a new era, in a new age? Let's just kill it off.
Regulating the internet would destroy synergy and community building, which is one of the most beautiful and powerful and naturally forming things that occurs, really smart companies who want their brands to naturally develop and flourish and grow would encourage an open, free internet because it gives them the possibility to get tons of free marketing.
You will see YouTube stop being a site where innovation is encouraged and anyone can do it, to being this stagnant library of videos that is less than 1% of the size it once was, where the entire next generation of social media influencers all across the EU will never come to be.
Just let them know that you'll be taking names of the MEPs that vote in favour of Article 13 and let them know the reasons why you want it rejected.
I should point out that this is not law yet, and it might be modified in the future, but if it's been approved already and it was voted on and it got a pretty big majority of the votes, so even if a lot of people switch over, it might still pass. It's probably not going to change. It's going to happen next year, and then apparently companies will have like 2 years to implement it into law, or countries rather will have 2 years to implement this wording into their own country's laws. So who knows, maybe the European Union won't even be around that long if stupid stuff like this keeps happening. I mean, we had Brexit. The United Kingdom is like, you know what, screw the European Union, and maybe other countries will start doing this as well, and then you don't have to worry about these dumb laws.
Even if you love the EU and you want to stay in the EU still can make mistakes, and Article 13 is a huge fucking mistake. So if you are a EU supporter and you want the EU to be the best that it can be, then it is in your interest to make sure that Article 13 gets rejected. So please contact your MEP and tell them to vote against Article 13. Because for leavers like me, if Article 13 does get passed, that would just give us another amazing argument in convincing people why we should be leaving the EU. And you Remainers don't want that now, do you? TikTok.
The final wording of the directive must still be decided upon by the European Commission, Council and Parliament, before being voted on again in January 2019. As this vote occurs just before the European Parliament elections in May, MEPs may be more likely to listen to their constituents ahead of this vote.
This is probably the most serious I've ever been in a video. You've no idea how crucial this is. Please do what you can to help.
The description is a list of all European Parliament members who are on Twitter. There are tons of them. These are the people who will be voting on Article 13 come January. Please find every representative from your country on that list and politely tweet at them explaining why they should vote against Article 13. Voice your opinion and maybe link them this video so they can understand the true ramifications this law will have. In January, we will see the final vote. After then, Article 13 is set in stone, and whatever fate our community has will be sealed. Now, the rest is up to you.
Well, no, it's not doomed. It's not as bad as you think. Like, yeah, it's actually kind of as bad as you think. Yeah, press F for Europe. Hold on, just till I go into my bag.